Brandon,
Yes.
is there a way that I can display the people that are attending this meeting on the right side so that I can see more of them? The right side of my screen.
One second. There is. Let me minimize my stuff real quick.
Well, that's okay. It's 5:30 and we can get going. I've just at the last meeting I had people waving and wanting to speak and I didn't see them.
You can, in the top right corner, go to gallery view. On mine, it's the top right corner, and it shows everybody.
Oh, well, look at that. Yes, it does. That's perfect.
Perfect. And give me just 1 second.
Oh, I like that. Thank you.
And we're live.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. Thanks again for all the work that you're doing to make these virtual meetings happen. It's allowed us to stay connected with our trustees, our administration, our staff, our community. Really appreciate all the hard work that is going into it, as well as all the participation that we have by our trustees and by our staff. So I would like to welcome you to a special board meeting. It's a continuation of the May 4th special board meeting, the Board of Trustees from the Elementary District and the High School District. I would ask you to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated, and I will do a roll call. Joe Raffiani.
Here.
Jana Hafer.
Present.
Hi, Jana.
Hi.
Russ Hall.
Present.
Mike Leo. Brian Yates.
Present.
Scott McCullough.
Present.
Jen Hoffman.
Present.
Tanya Ludwig.
Present.
If Mike shows up, will somebody please let me know so that we can record it for the record? I would appreciate that. And again, we'll talk about public comment during our regular meetings. Public comment is typically held at the beginning of the meeting. And in our virtual meetings, we have a slightly different platform for that. And if we have an action item, we read our public comment that is related to that item. In this evening's meeting, there is no action item, but I will read to you the modification for the virtual meeting, which is public comment for this evening's virtual meeting can be submitted in electronic format using the Google Documents link provided on the district's webpage. When accessing the district's homepage or the school board page, a pop-up window will appear with a link to the Google document. Submissions do require full name and home address in order to be submitted for the record and are limited to 500 word count. Submissions will be screened and read verbally by our district clerk prior to the conclusion of this meeting. And I thank our district clerk, Craig Van Ice. He's been doing a great job as he's read in excess of 100 public comments, and we appreciate hearing from the public, knowing that it is an opportunity for them to express views, and we do take their views and their input seriously. So with that, I will move it on to the agenda item that we have today, which is the superintendent's report, and I will pass that on to Superintendent Upham.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, trustees and guests. Excited to offer another instructional leader in our district, Ms. Barron, to talk about just the middle school experience. And last week, obviously, we talked about the elementary experience. And I feel these are very important because we haven't had the opportunity to have conversations with the boots on the ground. I'm talking extensively with our building administrators and teachers when I have the opportunity to, but as far as the trustees, just haven't had a chance to really visit and exchange dialogue. I thought last week was very beneficial for us as we move forward. And Ms. Barron, if you maybe would talk about in the end here after you've completed, just about grading and some of the challenges that we're having with grading. And I had put a document out to our high school principals and actually the district called a no harm grading, where the grade prior to March 16th could be improved. And instead of maybe marking Fs, if you will, looking at incompletes and then looking to extend time, just until to really say it in a simple format, to listen to the story. There are so many stories out there that I think we need to pay attention to moving forward. And so at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Barron from Riverside and talk about science. And I know we're using the new curriculum Amplify Science, and I know that's been a very beneficial, fortuitous component to the issues we're dealing with now. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I do want to start out by saying thank you so much for approving the Amplify online curriculum. It has been amazing to use that during this really difficult time. The kids were really familiar with it before we started this, of course, so that made it a ton easier. But everything they need is right there, and it's very step by step for them, and it's made my life incredibly better than it would have been if I had to do this with a textbook or something like, the traditional way that we used to do things. Greg, you asked if I would discuss the grading part, and I apologize, have not been in on all of the discussions with the grading, but at Riverside, we have been doing just the, adding points as students complete things. There are tons of stories of kids who, they're babysitting their sisters and brothers and cousins and have no time to do work because there's 3 other ones that are using the same computer, trying to get things done. So I have had several students that have actually improved their grades from a D to a C or a C to a B, or even from a B to an A, just by doing the work on a daily basis. Last week I actually had a test that, I'm not requiring tests. That's not fair to the students who maybe can't do all of the work, but I had several students who had really worked hard on the unit that we were on. And so I offered it to them and made sure that they understood that it wasn't absolutely required of them. I had probably a third of my students who went in and took the test, and at least half of those got a high A on the test. So I feel like this is awesome. They're learning, they're getting it. These Amplify tests are hard. When we were in school, I had to work really hard with them beforehand to help them to just understand the format of the test questions. And I have been so proud of them, just the work that they have done. So I don't know if there's anything else that I can talk about or answer, or, Zoom meetings or day-to-day what it's like for them, but I'd be happy to.
Questions from the board?
I had one.
Mr. Yates.
Sorry. How often do you have Zoom meetings with the students? Do you have a schedule of frequent meetings, or is it kind of as needed? Or?
Both. So I do probably 1 to 2 Zoom meetings that I announce on Google Classroom every week. And at Riverside, we have a schedule. So anyone who is, teaching science, we have a certain time during the week, and that fluctuates from morning until afternoon until evening. So each week we have different scheduled times for us that are put out by our administration. And so I just schedule a couple of those a week, and I usually have between 10 and 20 students who join those Zoom meetings. They can be anything from, let's kind of do a show and tell with our pets, which sometimes they devolve, I guess, into that. Or a lot of times we do like what's called Gimkit or Kahoot or something like that, where we're playing a game to reinforce the vocabulary or key concepts of the unit. And the kids really love that. And generally they're asking me right away on Monday, like, when's our Zoom meeting this week, and what are we going to be doing in our Zoom? The other type of Zoom meeting that I do probably 4 or 5 times a week is just an individual Zoom. So a student who's maybe struggling with a concept, or even like just how to do a particular lesson, I'll get on with them, schedule a specific time with them that works for them, and then I'll get on with them and we'll just do an individual meeting.
Other questions from the board?
Jana.
Jana, jump in there, girl.
Hi, thank you for joining us. I was wondering if you could tell us, are there any students that you feel like you have not connected with at all?
Yes, unfortunately, I would say probably five or six students from every class, and I teach 4 7th grade and 1 8th grade. And there are probably 5 or so students from every classroom that I've sent emails to them, just tried to reach out to them, but I have not seen any work from them at all during this entire online distance learning part. That's about a third, maybe, of my students.
Third of your students.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miss
Wow.
Barron, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Hafer.
No, go ahead.
One of the questions that I've been asking for a long time, and I think the trustees have had concerns about, is starting next year, just in your students, in your science students, can you share some thoughts about what the start of the year could look like as far as curriculum, instruction, those types of situations?
Are you referring to catch-up time from this year?
Yeah, I'm referring to, as a classroom teacher, obviously you know how all of your students are doing. What do you anticipate going into next year as a science department? What would your conversation or discussion be?
I really think that the biggest issue in science, at least, it's different in math and in English probably, but in science, because in 6th grade they do earth science, in 7th they do biology or life science, and then in 8th grade they do physical science, or it's kind of a chemistry physics combo. And some of those concepts do carry over. So there's going to be some things that we, possibly could need to brush up on. But generally, like the 8th graders going into high school, there's some chemistry concepts that some of my kids have missed. And so if they elect to take chemistry, there may be some things that they're behind on when they get into those elective classes, such as chemistry. Life science, there could be a couple of things that they would struggle with. Thankfully, it was only part of the year, and we're going to end up completing 2 units that are very closely linked with each other. But as far as just the logistics of things, I would say the most important thing to start out next year is to make sure that we have very strong grounding in Google Classroom and all those online platforms where the kids, if we end up having this happen again, they feel confident in being able to just get on and do the work and manipulate those systems so that they're not confused by just getting their assignments and how they can get those and work through them. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Other questions from board members? I have a follow-up question, because one of the comments that Greg has made and that Jana brought up is there is great concern of those students that have become disengaged. And I appreciate that you're looking forward to the fall, that we might end up with a dual platform system. We may have some online learning. How do you envision reaching out to a third of your students that elementary teacher on last week, and it's saying my internet connection's unstable, so I may be cutting out.
That's okay. I'm getting most of what you're saying.
All right, thank you. They had their principal head to the students, do personal visitations to the students' homes. Is that something that is going on with the Riverside staff?
Yes, as far as I understand, there are calls going out every week. Each teacher goes in on a Google forms, or not forms, but the Excel type sheet, Google spreadsheet, and we fill out every student that we have had contact with. We give them a green go, we give a red to the ones we haven't seen anything from, and we have ways to comment on that so that we can make our administration aware of which students are being involved and which are not. And it's my understanding that they call and visit students who we haven't heard anything from, and that has actually helped tremendously, because I can tell the students that I have marked red consecutively, 5 or 6 days in a row, they they do get a call, and then I'll see them online the next week. You know, they're trying to catch up.
And as a follow-up to that, when you have a student that hasn't shown up for your class, do you check in with the other teachers that have that student as well to find out if they've had contact with them or if they've just completely checked out?
Yeah, we do. And it is nice to be able to, we're a pretty close-knit family at Riverside. And so we're constantly talking with each other about those types of things. You know, we had a student whose father passed away. And so we were all able to communicate about that and send her some emails. And, you know, we just haven't expected a lot from her because of that situation. A lot of those types of, you know, situational things with kids in their homes, but also kids that are just refusing to do their work. They're telling their parents that they're doing it, but they're not. And so we've been able to communicate and kind of come alongside those kids and try and
she's frozen for me. Am I frozen or is she frozen?
I see her frozen.
Oh, good. Then I'm not unstable. Yay. Greg, is there anything that you would like to summarize from the work that the middle school teachers are doing?
No, I think, you know, I think it's a telltale sign. What we're hearing is pretty close to what I had presented several weeks ago, or maybe through this whole process, that it appears that about 70% of our students are engaged and learning, but the concern is learning at what level? While learning at an online level, thank goodness for that. But learning at a level of live instruction when school's in session, no, that's not the case. And then we have the 30% that are, you know, partially engaged, disengaged in those types of situations. So again, reminder for when we move forward at the beginning of the year, and then potentially this summer, if possible, getting some live instruction in front of them and hopefully getting the people who need it the most to take part in whatever we offer. And as I said before, our principals, especially in our title schools, asked me to the best of our ability, and we don't know all the costs that are going to be associated with COVID. We're putting them down, and they're stacking quite concerningly. The costs are to be able to hold enough that we can, you know, go after additional human resource support, IA tutors, IEPPs, SNAs, teachers to address this gap. And it's probably going to take some time to get through that. That's if, you know, we have the opportunity to teach in the manner that we want to teach moving forward.
So as we usually see the summer slump, you know, students start the school typically lower than the end of the school in the spring. That's going to be exacerbated for several reasons. Those that have chosen not to be engaged or have had challenges with the online learning. So that's where you're talking about trying to do some early instruction before the school starts for those kids to bring them up or catch them up, and we'll be able to use the COVID-19 money for that.
Yeah, that's the plan, Madam Chair. That's what we want to do. We want to try to offer some type of summer support, and actually, what I'll be presenting at next Monday's board meeting is just the idea of possibly some language. I'll work with Mr. Weldon, our legal counsel, on looking at some flexibility in our ability to do some instruction of some kind in the summertime. We do have summer school that's scheduled to begin, and we do have some of our school partners that are inquiring about being able to offer their student programs and what that would look like moving forward. But again, a lot of it depends on the status of the virus. As we stand right now, it looks like we are okay, but we'll know more as the weeks unfold.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any other questions of Superintendent Upham? And Greg, did you have anything else to add?
I don't. I just, as we look at continuing communication, and Madam Chair talked today about, you know, what does this ongoing Monday meeting look like, and is it time to sunset? And as we had shared, and as we look to close this meeting out, probably within the next couple of weeks, I will have the executive directors kind of want to split this in half, possibly next Monday night. The executive directors kind of give a summation to their area as we look to close the year out. And then the following Monday, not the 25th, but the Monday after that, I believe it's the 1st or 2nd, maybe finalizing this meeting with a summation by the remaining executive directors on just kind of the end of the year reflection and next steps moving forward to the impacts of the district on where we are at this point in time, and then what it looks like moving forward through the summer and into the fall.
Are there questions for Greg?
Greta, I do.
Okay, Jana, go ahead.
I'm checking the calendar, Greg. So next Monday is the regular board meeting.
Yep.
The next Monday is the 25th. And then the next Monday is June 1st. So,
Yeah.
So what we're looking to do is that we'll have the board meeting on the 18th, and then we'll take the week that includes Memorial Day week off. And then we'll reconvene this meeting and probably then adjourn this meeting on June 1st.
and have all of the support staff report at that time?
The executive directors that are not involved with end of the year issues will be able to try to split it in two, so that half or so of them would report at the regular board meeting. We'll have executive director reports, and then June 1st we'll have the rest of the executive directors report. And then I'm assuming as we move into June and July, we'll have updates on summer programs or early start programs.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Presented for information only, and appreciate you bringing the staff in to hear directly from them. That moves us on to the COVID-19 available resources. We present this at all of our meetings, just in case folks haven't found out where to go. Billings Public School website has, you can go to our main webpage. We'll have COVID-19 updates. This is a great time to sign up for the superintendent's newsletter. We also have a Facebook page, and Superintendent Upham will continue to have his lunch updates, 12:30 to 1 o'clock or so. We have state resources through the Office of Public Instruction, opi.mt.gov, and also the Educational Consortium at mt.pec.org has information on COVID-19. We also locally have Riverstone Health, and their website is riverstonehealth.org. Montana Department of Health and Human Services is also a reliable resource, as well as cdc.gov. What we have noticed many times over the course of the last weeks is that the information continues to change, and I think it will continue to change as we move forward. So that'll give you the most up-to-date information. And with that, it brings us on to, moves us on to the communication from the public. Mr. Van Ice, do we have any communication from the public today?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's one public comment. It's from Emily Lentz at 1227 Avenue D. The comment is, when are elementary teachers going to stop assigning schoolwork for the season? That's it for public comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Van Ice. And then that moves us to the end of the meeting. And as Greg talked about earlier, and as I also visited about, we will be recessing this meeting until June 1st at 5:30. And we are anticipating that that'll be the last of our Monday special board meetings. Our meeting next Monday on the 18th is our regularly scheduled board meeting for the month of May, and that will commence at 5:30, and that will continue to be a virtual meeting. So with that, I will recess this meeting. Thank you all for being here. Oh, for the record, Mike Leo did join, so if that gets recorded for the record, I would appreciate that. And with that, I will wish you a good evening and stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.